Hello, and welcome back to Talk 30 to Me. I'm your host, Mr. Robert, and today we're diving into the world of career pivots. And yes, I am not sick, but apparently not 100% well either. So I do sound like this for this episode, and for that, I do apologize. Or whatever, deal with it. Shit, I don't care. But turning 30 isn't just about personal milestones. It's often a time when many of us start to rethink our professional paths. Whether it's a shift in passion, a necessity born from circumstance, or a bold move towards a long-held dream, changing careers in your 30s comes with its own set of challenges and rewards. So in this episode, we're going to explore what it takes, or what it took, to make these big moves successfully. Another week, more guests. We'll get into that when we get into that. But let's get started. Let's start with some real-life stories. Our first guest today is Taylor, who left a decades-long career in finance to pursue their passion for graphic design. Taylor, welcome to the show. So let's talk about what sparked this significant change for you.
Thanks for having me, Robert. It was a mix of fear and excitement. I remember looking at my life and realizing that while I was successful, I wasn't happy. That's when I knew something had to change.
Oh my God, yes, and change you did. How did you manage the financial and emotional uncertainties? That's the type of stuff I would be told to look out for. But how did you manage those uncertainties during that transitional period for you?
It wasn't easy. Financially, I had to be smart saving up before I quit, cutting down expenses, and initially freelancing on the side. Emotionally, having a strong support system and keeping focused on why I made the change were key.
I know that feeling well myself. I know that feeling very well myself. In my 30s, and I think I did a count in preparation for the show. Well, to date, let me just say, I have had, and I am, this year is, this year is my next year. So this is my 41st year. But to date, I have had 40 jobs. I started working when I was 18. No, I'm sorry. I started working when I was 12. What the fuck am I talking about? I started working when I was 12. To date, I have had 40 positions solid ever since I was 18. Ever since I was 12. Y'all don't think I'm lying now. I've seriously been working since I was 12. Anyway, but the jobs that I had when I was around or in my 30s, I had 3 or 4 in my 30th year. 2 were for the same company. They let me go and they brought me back. And then I had found some side gigs to get into. But specifically at the time that I turned 30, I had 3 jobs. I was 3 or 4 jobs. Yeah, 3 or 4 jobs, somewhere in there. I gotta look at the dates to get the math right. But I was working for a private Catholic college. I was also working part-time for Kmart as a customer service supervisor, and I was an associate account executive for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And somewhere in there, I had returned to local government and was a clerk for the Third Circuit Court, but for a very short, very, very short period of time. They pissed me off and I quickly got up out of there because, again, it was not my main job. But not necessarily financial constraints, but I had availability. I was free a little bit. So that's what made me take on these jobs. They were available. I was intertwined with someone whose mom worked at Kmart. So that's how I ended up getting that gig, which is actually pretty sweet. But yeah, the account associate for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra in particular. Was also a short gig. I probably never should have made it as far as I did for that job or the clerk one position, but I was already too busy. I would argue that I'm busier now, an entire decade later, not working for any of those companies, but also maintaining four jobs. Much, which is my fault, but much busier now. Um, and again, sort of the same rationale, not out of this need for money or anything like that. It's, I see so many people that seem relatively unfulfilled because they think it's one or the other. And I grew up not necessarily, immersed in improv, but I understood the rules, and it's yes and. So I have always believed, and granted, there's an In Living Color sketch with the with the with the Jamaicans, and I'm often referred to as one because of the number of jobs that I have. But I don't have them recklessly. There's an interest. I won't say a passion for most of these, but there is an interest to see, like, what this gig is about. How is this any different than something that I've done similarly, but not necessarily in this particular industry or whatever the case may be. So, you know, if somebody's paying, there's a space, I'm free. I'll try it out. And if I like it, I will keep it as I have. And if I don't like it, I will get the fuck out of there. So, um, I was, I don't even think that I was even really like going through a lot professionally. Like I had figured out, at least my main job, what all it needed. And based on that, that let me pick up other things. I think at this time it was just one main job and everything else came secondary. But I know that when I was at the college and when I was at the court, somehow these were happening at the same time. I want to say the court was in the morning, the college was the evening because it was an on site position overnight, basically. Um, um, Kmart and the Opera House were either early. Well, I know Kmart was weekends, but it took the time that I was not at the court during the day. Occasionally I would do through the week, but it was definitely on the weekends. And same thing with the Opera House, but that was very short lived. If you followed me on LinkedIn, you might see that it says 2 months, but I think it was like a end of January, middle of August type of situation. I mean, I made it through training, but but I'm it's something about selling things to people that I don't know. It unnerves me, and it's not like I care. I've done the growing up anyway. Y'all remember the entertainment books? Um, what other shit? It was some other stuff. Um, but I've done the selling of things, and I guess that was kind of cheating because my mother did the selling of things. But I, it was cool, and I felt a kind of way about having to sell things to people. Now I could do sales if it was either way, like if at the register, not necessarily upselling, but if I just share some information with you, I don't feel the same stakes when the job is wholly dependent upon sales. Um, which is strange because I have a degree in marketing, so it's like why do I feel so opposed to having to do this? But anyway, um, there was a little bit of transition, and I won't even say that I was trying to find myself or anything professionally. It's just these opportunities were made available to me. I can honestly say I've worked kind of some of everywhere. It only feels like I've been working for colleges and schools and things like that here recently. Um, I guess one has always been in the background somewhere, but I've definitely worked for a number of different industries. But specifically in my 30s, I don't know what I was going through. I very much loved the independence and the extra money. It also made traveling that much more fun. We'll get into that in the later episode, but because I truly had disposable income, and I don't know that I was fully aware of that at the time, in so much as I was just uh, you know, very. It was a very simple transaction. They had something available. I was available for something. Ta-da! we have an arrangement. But yeah, I don't specifically because I mean, like I mentioned, the work was not necessarily connecting across any of these. So the job at the college I was doing, the residence hall, I had a coworker. She was doing mornings, which freed me up because I also had class. Did I mention I also had class? Anyway, uh, I also had class. Um, Somewhere mixed up in all of this availability. But yeah, so she did the day and I did at night. So that in the day I could go to work, I could go to class, get whatever my homework and or whatever was, and be available to them. We didn't have a lot of instances that happened overnight for the most part, but still got to make your rounds. Everybody, I never stayed in the residence hall during my college experience that I was having there. But at the age where one would have stayed on campus, and I was in school, I had my own apartment. So I had my own apartment before I even graduated high school. So um, I had a different lived experience. And plus, I like it quiet. So it was nobody living with me. And I think I lived in a building that at the time, anyway, was predominantly populated with seniors. Maybe not all seniors, but mostly seniors. So when I say it was a very quiet building at a certain point in time, that was everything that I needed and more. So grateful for that. But I don't know if I was setting myself up for a career pivot per se, or if I was just taking on a bunch of jobs. I'm very unserious when it relates to employment. I don't really have a desire to be someplace and work that place for 60 years because nobody that I know who has done that is in good shape physically because they didn't balance it with as much uh I don't know, randomness as I've done. Uh, and it might not have, been for their time either, but I don't see them having, lived in the same way. So I like to have fun, um, because I'm not gonna say I didn't have fun in my childhood because I did, but it's just I don't want to be I don't want this life to make me harm myself. I want to be able to leave this thing and have left it all on the floor. I gave this world everything, any and everything that I wanted to do, any and every place that I wanted to go, any food that I wanted to try, people that I wanted to know, question that I wanted to ask, that I was able to do that thing. So that's kind of how I lived my life. Uh, don't get me wrong. There are moments when I'm seated that I want to be around my, commune of people. But like other than that, like I'm in these streets and not to interact expressly with people, but just to be out there, to see it, to do it. Like why would I wait to do all of my most adventurous traveling until after I've retired from work? That's crazy. Where do you go from here? You're old, you're tired, you have no energy, no strength. No, yeah, you got money, but like where are you going? You gonna go somewhere and sit down? You gonna get on a plane. You gonna take a plane. You gonna fly somewhere to go sit down? You gonna fly somewhere to take a nap in another bed? Okay, if it works for you, if it works for you, that ain't no shit we do over here. If you travel with me and all you want to do is stay in the bed, you will find that I have not called you in days because I will leave you. I will leave you. I will leave you and let you figure it out on your own because that's what you want to do. You came all this way, you paid all this money. Please, I'm gonna be in the street. I'm gonna be so exhausted by the time I get back to the room, to my bed. That's just how I like to do it. So, uh, and maybe because of those dreams, specifically, as far as careers and pivots and whatnot, maybe that's how I ended up in all of these spaces. I know I thought I wasn't even thinking about a discount, specifically at the Opera House, but it was a sales job, and I thought, it's it's less in your face as being in, Kmart or something like that, because I didn't have to see the people, um, and upsell things that I'm not saying I don't necessarily believe in, but like, are you kidding me? Y'all know if y'all want this shit or not. Like, I don't have to bring it up, but sometimes you do have to bring it up, but still. So I thought the sales job perhaps, might help specifically with that skill, but, you know, it's the ardent sales quotas that I have the the most difficult time with. So, I knew that job wasn't going to last. So I went ahead and got out of the way because I was in the way. Went on ahead and got out of the way. But, it I learned something. you're gonna have to circle back around to me to find out what it is. But I did learn something. So you just have to give me a second to figure out what it is. But I did learn something. Um, Maybe about collaboration, which I also don't enjoy. But still, y'all got to learn how to listen to me because it's not really a complaint in so much as an observation, but it's a very specifically worded observation. So y'all gonna have to, I just hit to hang out with me for a little bit. Um, but yes, so I will say, which is I'm only kind of noticing now as I'm looking again at my work history, work experience, that sort of the same move that I've made somewhat recently, specific to this doctoral program that I'm in right now, um, where I was working and where I should have been working because of what it was that I was going to school for. Like I made sort of a move for that. But I want to say in my case, it was less of a move and more of a return. Um, because as I mentioned, I was already working for the private college. They had let me go. What was that? April. They started laying people off, so that was April, and then I was back working there in September of that same year. Um, so again, more of a return, a different responsibility. So I did not return to the college with the same position. I actually got another position that made more money. So it was I would say the move was upward and lateral, as opposed to just a lateral move, an upward lateral move. So I moved out of essentially library services to the residence hall. So I was working in a educational technology services space. And then when I returned to the college, I was working in the residence hall. So that was a very unique opportunity. And the hiring was very different because the hiring for that position was with um, was that the provost of the college or the CFO? I think it was the CFO. My interview was with the CFO of the college at the time. It was in his office had a small, I want to say dinette table, but but his office had a small table in it. So we met at that table, and then the lady who was over maybe like student support services. I forget what the department was called at the time, but um, she was the one who initially reached out to me for the position, which I don't recall our paths crossing when I was there before. Not in this way. But I remember the email that I received because again, I was still a student after they laid me off, so I just didn't go to work, but I was still in the building. Um, but yeah, she had called me, sent me an email actually, and extended an opportunity, and then I came and met with her, and then she ran what she was hoping for by someone else, and then they ran it by the CFO who was her boss, and then they brought me in for a meeting that was apparently an interview, and I'm not gonna say on the spot, but it feels like it was very much on the spot. The job was offered to me, and I started there not too much long after that. Um, so yeah, uh, I don't know about career pivots, but there was definitely an alignment or a realignment because I was out of the space and going back to the space. Because I think going to work in local government was, I'm going to say out of survival, but because of the timing, like I was already back at the college. I was already doing um, Kmart um, earlier, so they were kind of back to back. I had done the DSO job first, and then went back to the courts for a very short period of time, and then I went on and got out of there. Um, and if I refresh my memory, because that was about a year or so later. So yeah, so I rode the two jobs for a good period of time, a good long periodically time, and because I think I went to the restaurant after that. But yeah, so I don't know about career pivots because I don't think for me that I am setting up some grand scheme of things. I am looking at this very logically and literally. Um, if I'm in school and it's in a certain thing, I didn't have a job that relates to that thing. So at that time, I was in school getting my first degree, which was, well, it depends on how you look at it. But my first um, degree, my bachelor's degree, so that was about marketing. So I was working in sales. That's kind of how literal I am when it comes to things. So if whatever I am working on, especially if school is still involved, but academically or professionally, um, like I feel I need a little, I don't know, on the job, whatever. I usually get something in that vein so that whatever work I'm doing, it just becomes that much easier. It doesn't seem so difficult. It just becomes easy. Okay, I like that. Let's, cause I need a drink, so let's take a break. We'll be back.
Ever wanted to build new skills on your time, your terms, your vibe? Say less. Woodsy workshops are finally here. From creative storytelling to real-life skill building, Woodsy is your new home for bold, unapologetic learning. Our flagship series, Kiss My Ass, Unsolicited Advice for the Soul and the Systems, is now live. This ain't your average course. We're talking truth-telling, self-reflection, and designed to shake the table and set it. And soon, our Woodsy Journalism Project drops made for truth seekers, culture shifters, and everyday storytellers ready to use their voice with purpose. Whether you're leveling up, healing forward, or just curious to try something new, Woodsy has a workshop for you. Visit www.woodsy LLC to explore, enroll, and evolve. Woodsy, where soul meets skill.
Welcome back. With us now is Jordan with a Y, a seasoned career coach who specializes in helping mid-career professionals navigate the waters of career change. Jordan, what are some common fears your clients face, and how do you help them overcome these?
Great question, Robert, and thank you for having me. The biggest fear is often failure, the fear of not making it in a new field. I always encourage clients to start with small, manageable goals and to celebrate each victory, no matter how small. It's about building confidence one step at a time.
That's a powerful approach. So when it comes to these practical steps, what's your advice for someone just starting to contemplate, a career shift?
Start by exploring your interests, casually take an online course, attend workshops, or even volunteer in the field you're interested in. It's all about gaining exposure and understanding what the day-to-day work actually looks like.
Yeah, I think that perfectly sums up what my experience was. I was definitely, um, excuse me, exploring my interests very casually. I wasn't doing free classes or volunteering or anything like that. You definitely needed to pay me for my time. But I found an employable way to explore interests that I had. Because I probably had not worked in, I'll say, retail in a few years. If I make myself go back, let me look so I make sure I'm not lying. Because it had been a while. I know I had done it like a little bit into high school and whatnot, but I had definitely taken a break from retail. Um, so I had done it in a minute. And again, like I said, with the sales and marketing. And I wonder, because I didn't do it on purpose, y'all, I promise. But I'm curious now, only because it's been brought up, if that's really what I'm doing. Like it's in my biology, my cells to look at things this way. And if that's what I was actually doing, because I do kind of take on a number of responsibilities that, while on the surface don't seem connected, but if you pressed me to know, like, well, why did you do this? Um, I didn't have this polished an answer at the time, but I did know that it was expressly these positions, right? That I was going to work and going to figure out what the thing was. I know early on, specific to my actual turning 30, um, I believed um, family, I don't even want to say pressures, but just in my mind, if you talk about something too much, you are either curious about this thing or you just don't know how to talk. Like if you just keep bringing up something, I have to assume you want to talk about it because I don't understand how conversationally you keep ending up here. Um, so there wasn't a whole lot of conversation, but you get older and your family just has nothing to talk about. So if it ain't the weather or sports, it's where you work it and what are your professional or adult goals? Like what you doing with your time these days? Um, so while I was working, because I didn't, which was totally not my fault because they let me go, chill on me, but um, so I needed another gainful work experience. The other things people could easily read as play, but I needed another gainful work experience. So not that Kmart would have been it. The DSO definitely would not have been it. Just because that's not my skill set. I don't think I'm good at selling things to people. I can convince you to keep something or convince you to use something a different way if you already have it. But convincing you to get something, I mean, unless it's like, go to the movies and have this, movie watching experience. By all means, I can do that. My persuasion extends to other things. I don't believe it's in tangible things. Like I could probably tell you that you look good in something that you are trying on and you buy it. But as you came in there to buy something. You know what I mean? I'm not selling you something that you didn't necessarily come in there to buy. Like somebody who is definitely window shopping and somebody who truly has the intent to purchase something. So, um, yeah, maybe I don't know that I've even. That's a really good way to put that because when I look at because I didn't have too much that strayed. When I look at, and I'm on LinkedIn right now, actually, uh, going through it, I do have things that are very much connected. The place or places, generally places, because I'm usually working more than one job at a time. Um, there's always some overlap because you're just not about to play with me professionally that way. There will always be an overlap, and not for the sake of money, but just for my security. Because these places, as we're seeing in modern times, can change things on a dime, regardless of what the impulse is for that change. Um, and you just never know how protected or unprotected you actually are in any given situation, especially in the workplace. So I like to hedge my bets. And generally, one of the other things that I'm doing is one of my own things because I can't, well, not that I can't, but I wouldn't let me go. So I always have some gig on the side. So I've moved to more hands off things. Well, not too much hands off because I do actually have to write it, but um, um, less active forms and streams of income, trying to get, to my 7 uh, streams that are doing things for me. And I don't know. I almost don't want to treat the books as its own single stream. I'd like to treat the different outputs of the books as their own individual streams, so ebooks, paperback. And when I finally make time for audio recording of the books, which is available to me, I'd like to be able to do that, but not sounding like this. Um, but yeah, just trying to find other streams of income. But I know during this period in particular, specifically at the onset of my 30s, um, you know, not a whole lot changed. It's not like life begins anew per se because you're just continuing. It's the clock did not stop even for a second. Like we just kept going with it. Um, but that's interesting. I know when I think of it was something else that you just said. Um, like even down to the taking the online courses and attending workshops. Like I think that was definitely what school is for me. I do not. You might be you might seriously think that I enjoy school just because of how long I've been in it, but I do not. I really don't. But I know that it is a way, as a means to something. So I'm doing it for the limitations or the freedoms. I was going to say limitations that will be removed, but more so the freedoms I will gain as a result of having it. things that have been uh, off limits or unavailable to me, generally because of credential or, racism, societal barriers, and other things like that. Um, I am of the school of people who were taught about how important education is. So that is the real reason. But it's more so the holiday schedule. I have also been a person in the school of thought about specifically like where you work and the benefits that you should get while there. So I think I have more than, professional responsibility or anything like that. I have been tracing the benefits, goddammit. I want the benefits. I'm trying to find a place that is going to take care of some things, granted necessary, but also nonetheless still things um, that just happen as part of our natural lives. So I have been on the hunt for a nice retirement situation, which I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 for me because I am working in education. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're going to take this damn 1%, you're going to go live your life. And you better make the most of it because death is still on the other side of all of this. More of it. Anyway, so um, I think that's also another thing. Like I've been like chasing after benefits. I wouldn't say that my compensation package has been great even to date. I will say that it's not. But again, in having multiple jobs, I achieved my six figures indirectly. I achieved them indirectly. Uh, but I get there. But I get there. And that's kind of really the most important point about all of this is that whether you're 30, 35, 40, 27, 22, 19, whatever, like you will get there. The real lesson is to hang on in there because it's coming, but it's probably coming very slowly. I will say one thing though, again, to the point of, exploring your interests and whatnot, being able to leverage your existing skills across multiple industries and platforms was probably another big thing that my 30s brought about. Being able to realize that, yes, when I am working for this private college, when I am working for the court, when I am working for Kmart, when I am working for the DSO, like I'm using a very specific set of skills, right? That is the career part about working. It's how many skills can I, one, add to this list of my skills that I can use regardless of where it is that I am. The type of document that I might be typing up will be different, but the fact that I am typing and know how to type is the career. Like that is the skill that translates to all of these businesses. Being able to use Adobe is a very specific skill set, but do I have an opportunity to use it even in its simplest form at the college? Over here when I'm doing marketing, over here when I'm making a sale in the store, or maybe not even specific to the sales part of it, but maybe the marketing function, telling the employees about something that is happening at our site, our store location, creating a flyer in order to do that, like in its simplest form or its most complex. Am I given an opportunity to use this skill set across industries? So I will say, specific to my 30s, that yes, I was able to do that. And I would also say that I made a way to do that, just to be at work and not be bored or maybe underwhelmed. Because I can come in, I think that's my mental health thing. I can come into a space and like get it. Like I can see exactly what this is about to be. I can know who the bitches are at work, and bitches not exclusive to women. Nice try. I see you there, my nigga. So, um, being able to see where the pitfalls are, who to look out for, who is definitely an ally across the board, who is a good resource. I will say that I've worked a number of places that even to date where people assume I've been around longer than I have. And I think that's, again, maybe not even specific to my skill set, but maybe more so my personality and disposition, but still it shows itself in the workplace. Uh, that that's kind of a part of it too. Like I'm looking at these situations and I'm like, is this a place that I can suffer? And that's probably setting me up for failure as well. But still, is this a place that I could suffer in. Like if I could not find anything else, I'm used to having, my next job pretty easily and quickly available to me. So if everything dried up, jobs were not available, and wherever I just happened to be at this given moment, like, could I suffer being here? And overall, the answer is probably yes. I might have to do some things to make that suffering tolerable, but overall, I could probably figure it out. Like, it's not terrible. Um, but again, in identifying that, um, your core and even an expanded set of skills that you possess, that you have gathered from all the jobs that you have had up until this point, that you can now use in a variety of capacities for, any, number of jobs. One has probably been the reason that I've been able to get other gigs when I felt like I was done with the place. Like I had gotten everything that they had available. Like that titty was dry. All that milk is gone. Slurp sound. I can't do it. My throat hurts. Sorry. But like I think that's another reason why I've been able to move on, is that that skill set is ready. Like I know how to talk about myself and the things that I've done in other places. I know how to make it sound like, oh, that was the best job I ever had. And while I'm sad to leave, bitch, I'm ready. I was ready to go. They wanted me to leave, and I too was ready to go. And that's kind of it's kind of what it is. So not lying, but it definitely is a simplifying of responsibilities for the benefit of some sort of like shorthand. Having this, professional, whether it's, private entity or, corporate structure, like just being able to exist in that space. Because, we can't, like, unless you work for yourself, you can't be free as an employee. Like there is a line that you have to toe as an employee, which does not always yield what you would like. So if you want to keep getting these checks, no matter how small they are, to help you pay your bills, are you going to suffer the bullshit at this workplace, or, or, or are you going to get the fuck out of here? So those are choices that you have to come to terms with making, regardless of age. But I think that was why I was always hedging my bets with having more than one job. So for me, truly leveraging those skills across, new industries. I will say one thing that I am terrible at, I feel, because I don't care. And I don't care because, I'm smart, or I think I know, or whatever the case is. It's generally because it's not presented in an engaging way to me. But networking. I do not like going to networking events. I like eating and drinking at networking events. But the whole talking, because I haven't found, now I feel I've done it, but I don't feel that I have been at a networking event where I have had really good conversations with people, and we've exchanged information, and then a project or an opportunity presented itself and we got back in touch. I think I've done a lot of networking where I've met people and I've been exposed to their greatness and they've been exposed to my greatness, and that's kind of where it ends at. And I don't find much from those interactions. Um, like at all. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this situation, because we've done this networking. You seem like a decent person. We've had this interaction and it's been cool and or whatever. So all right. Uh-oh. You okay? All right. That was my dog, who decided that now was an appropriate time to try to play. I like to give my dogs my plastic water bottles when I'm finished with them, and they are chew toys for them, because my dogs like to tear up things more than having anything else. So one of my girls came in to get her bottle because she knew I had had some lemonade earlier, because I'm trying to get well. Thank you for your concern. But now's not the time for her, and we're back. I'm not even going to cut this out because that's what we're doing. All these episodes are done in guerrilla style, so they are very raw. I polished them up so you don't hear all the crazy background noise. But we keep it real guerrilla around here. Chill. So networking has not been like my thing. I've gone to, I'll say, a fair amount. Maybe not a lot. Definitely not a lot, because I I've yet to find them beneficial. But I've not been put in situations where those business cards that I have paid for in the past, that I kept in every bag, jacket pocket, whatever, desk, and either forgot to give out, was not important enough to give out. So I'm just trying to streamline a few things that it makes sense to me. But yeah, networking has not been my thing. I'd be curious for you all, and maybe I'll make that one of the questions over on Spotify. Um, uh, Irrespective of your 30s, just in general, like, do you find networking events to be fruitful experiences for you? When you go to networking events, do you engage with people that either professionally or personally, I know y'all like to fuck down on things, but um, personally or professionally, when you've met somebody that it has been a worthwhile or necessary meeting? Because I've had some really great conversations, talked about a number of things out in, the grand scheme of the world and all that jazz, but it didn't translate into either a future working opportunity. If I or they or anybody that we knew was looking to change careers, that, that was a referral opportunity that was going to happen. Yeah, I'd just be curious. So I might make that a question. For those of you who are listening via Spotify, there's a question on our page over on Spotify that you could poll, that you could participate there. I might see if I can extend that elsewhere. I'd be curious, just to gauge the feedback and see if that has proven to be beneficial. Because I know when I've gone to networking events with my friends, which I feel like everybody is coming there for that. The most of our bonding conversationally is over the food and drink. It is less about our individual work. Most of us just got off work, and it has obviously been a day because we're all over here shoveling carbs into our fat asses. So and booze. So, but yeah, I've never really honestly asked people specifically about networking events. I know I don't enjoy them and generally don't go to them, but I'd be curious to know. So I think I'm going to put that question out there so I can see what you guys think about that. But I think this has been a pretty good conversation specifically on leveraging your skills, whether it's in new or existing industries, and then also networking effectively, which I can't give you any tips on. Maybe I should have a networking event as one of our events. And make it so that they are worthwhile interactions. Maybe I'll think about that. Here, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
This is Woodsy. Not just a brand, a movement, a mindset, a mirror, a place where community meets creativity, where healing meets hustle, and where unapologetic Black excellence gets to speak loud, clear, and free. We build workshops that grow the soul. We tell stories that shift the culture. We host spaces that hold all of you no code switching required. If you ever felt too much, not enough, or stuck in between, Woodsy was built for you. This is radical rest. This is real talk. This is creative power, reimagined. Woodsy. Rooted in truth. Rising in power. Learn more at woodsy.llc and join the journey.
All right, y'all, we're back. And joining us now is Alex, who successfully transitioned from hospitality to tech by fully embracing the challenge of reskilling. Alex, welcome. Tell us about the resources that were most crucial for your transition from the hospitality industry over into tech.
Thanks, Robert. For me, coding boot camps were a game changer. They're intense, but incredibly focused on the skills you need to land a job in tech. Coupling that with online tutorials and building small projects really helped cement my learning.
I've always wanted to get into those, but it does require a lot of time, effort, and energy, and then already being in school, I don't have time for that at the present moment. But it sounds like it was incredibly rewarding for you. So I'm now curious, how did you stay motivated during that intense learning phase? Because it's basically saying, I do not currently have the skill sets for this, so I need to enroll in a program and all that entails, especially for somebody who is not, interested in returning to school, maybe even didn't have a great time in school when they originally were there. So, considering this intensive learning phase that you were about to go through? Like what motivated you?
Setting short-term goals was key. Also, joining a community of learners provided that much-needed support and motivation. We would often study together and share resources, which made the journey less isolating.
I guess you could say the same for me. While I was in school finishing up my bachelor's degree, I wasn't I wasn't getting my bachelor's degree because I wanted it. I was getting my bachelor's degree because my mother wanted me to have it. She thought I should have it. Um, Parents are in conversation with other parents, so I've stopped myself from saying competition and just said in conversation. But there is sort of an expected winner in these conversations, so I can imagine my mother didn't have a thing to say for me. So, she needed a thing. So she was like, she had been, the education part, she had been on me for quite some time. Um, and it just kind of, worked out that I got in. Not that I had bad grades or anything like that, but just like the timing of all of that. Because it had been, I went back in 2010. 2010. So this was nearing the end, if not at the end, um, of my degree program. So it was just to like follow something through to finish something. Um, so yeah, like I can see that. Um, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So the goal setting, like I'll have goals and they will materialize, but not, I don't feel, as a direct response to my actively doing the work of these goals. It's more like my goal setting is more like set it and forget it. We are not stirring this flour until it browns. Like this is this is some other type of stuff. And again, not out of laze or wanting to do things quickly. I think one area that I could have benefited from during this period would have been um, a mentor of some sort, which I think also, ushers in its own level of difficulty because you don't necessarily know what it is you want to do. And I don't think enough people were watching me at all to know what it is I actually want to do to be able to support that thing. There were a number of people who made suggestions about things that I could or should be interested in doing. But as far as connecting me with, a person or a resource for that thing, excuse me, I don't think any of that happened. And I don't know, I'd probably be better, but I don't know where I would be professionally or academically as a result of having that. But I know that I didn't have that. And not that I feel others did have it, but, you know, I always think of the movies and TV shows where somebody's just like, there's nothing in this town and I'm trying to get out of here. And it's like, well, you would think either through the school system or through some other means, like someone or a group of someone's um, would create, this funnel. Most people ideologically think it is school. School exposes you to how things are done in the world, a variety of professions indirectly. Um, they don't tell you how to become this thing, but they show you that this thing does exist in the world, and potentially you could become, another iteration of this thing, whether it's president or some sort of a lawmaker or fireman, police officer, nurse, teacher. You're exposed to, business owner to a degree. When you go to the grocery store, things like that. Like there is a certain level of exposure that does exist. Um, but the follow through on, I noticed, you can read books very quickly. Now I want to test your retention of the information. Write me a book report on the book that you just read. Okay, so not only can you process the information very quickly, but you can also regurgitate it in a different format with the same level of ease and breeze. And to be able to move through, again, those very small skills. So it's like you learn how to use a computer. You can obviously use a computer generally at any place that you work in for basic computer functions, right? You can respond to emails. You can answer the phone. You can make copies. right? You can unlock doors, you can close doors, you can open up the establishment because there are a number of things that one can do that open up an establishment. You can also, in the midway point, switch. So you're off, but somebody else is coming on. What does that look like in all types of capacities, not just retail and food service, but if there's a changing of the guards at a workplace, what does that look like? You've shown as a skill set, you can do that. And then once you compile this whole list of all these things that you now know how to do across all these different industries and what you did them, like that to me is the actual career. The career is not the work where you get to do that, but that you possess those skills. Because I think that's what the interview process, which is absolutely terrible, but that's what the interview process is, like sort of showcasing, like how can you talk about, without the tools in front of you, how can you discuss openly your ability to, perform these functions, either in the space where you perform them, how you could perform those same functions using those same or similar resources here. It's all a game, but I will say, I will say, um, for me, like I feel I got pretty good at that game early on, being I had a way too many opportunities to do it, so I hope I would be good at it. Um, but to be able to reframe sort of the skills that I currently had and how they would apply to this job, because be honest with yourself, when you have gone to apply for a job, obviously, for the most part, unless it is truly within the same industry or maybe for a competing interest, you have never worked in this place before. So they're asking you a lot of faith. Everything in this country, I feel, is backwards. There's a lot of onus being given at the beginning that I don't think the moment calls for. Like, you are new to the job. I don't know how the fuck y'all do shit here. I know how we did it there, but I didn't find that out until after they said yes to me as an employee. And then they showed me how they did things there. So there's a lot of conversation where people are trying to guesstimate. And, one would argue that, well, it's worked all this time. I don't know if, I don't know. I don't know if if the success of still being open counts as something working, in so much as something either did not happen just because, we all possess some level of common sense. So, if the building is on fire, we're not going to stay in there. We're going to get the fuck up out of here. Like, that's what's going to happen. That's just what's going to happen. But yeah, that's really good. I know for me, I don't know specific to my career journey that I had, and maybe I did, and they were supremely subconscious, but active motivations during my learning and earning phase, because I don't think I intentionally was learning to earn. Like, I was in school, but that was to achieve a completely separate issue. Like, so my mother would get off my back about going to school. I was in school, so that was for that. Now, yes, I was going to have a degree at the end of that. That degree, in theory, was going to help me, have a better job or a better life and all of that stuff. But all of that was at the end when I had the degree. So in the moment, I just had this position going to school. Let's see. So my mother's mind was quieted about that. And quite also a completely separate argument. I was going to work also. No, let me rephrase, because I do enjoy working. I don't necessarily care for the places that I work. But at that time, I was working where I was working in general, both to satisfy my mother's concerns about being, stable and able to take care of yourself, and you got to work and you need money. So to satisfy that, I mean, I didn't at the time, and now when I make myself think about it, I didn't like that as advice because it's very aimless and baseless. It's just like, go build a house. I mean, you need a house. Go get some food. You need food. But people showing you how to get and keep something, I really think I would have benefited from that. Like, I've made my own way in this world, and to a degree that has worked, again, specifically because of the career skills that I have developed. When I go places, like, I am bringing the version of me that has figured it out. I'm I'm not bringing the version that has to figure it out. I'm bringing the version that already has. I've gotten this far in doing it. Now, while yes, you might not do it, you also don't possess the skill to do it. So I think that's where there's mild differences. But I will say again, even though they were separate, um, because I think I I think to a degree, while you could argue just because I was young, I was in the city and state that I was in, um, that money was the motive. Trust and believe that W-2 did not say that. However, I had and I maintain positions that are in maybe high profile places because it is a big name in the area that I'm in. Um, area physical location that I'm in. But it doesn't pay anything. But I find so even though I don't like people, which I can't remember if I've said on this podcast, but I'm not a big fan of people at all. But I find jobs that still put me around them. So the money is not great, but it allows me to do a lot with it. Like I don't need top dollar to get top dollar, but I am having a top dollar experience. Come on, somebody, you can feel free to write that down. Um, but 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 the again because the skill set not only helps me professionally, academically, you could also say personally because you're wielding, especially now in these modern times where everything has been digitized in some way, shape, or form. You're using some of these skill sets personally, if you are one who travels, when you are making your travel arrangements or working with maybe your travel agent or other, resource that you are using, but you have to be able to get on the phone and talk to people. You might need to send an email or fill out some sort of electric form or provide, some digitized version of consent. Um, so again, being able to use computers, speak professionally on a phone. What the fuck is a phone? Is that a small phone? To be able to speak professionally on a phone. And a number of other tasks that you do at work also extend to your personal life. So it's almost like, at least for me anyway, once I developed these skills, I could not just chill out and hang with my friends and be still. Like I had to prove or disprove um, their effectiveness in the world. So that's where a lot of my side passions come from. That I mean, my therapist also says trauma. We'll talk about that later. Let me slow that down. My therapist also said trauma, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. So um, that's for me in my mind the rationale for diversifying my work experience alongside my education so that I am given the opportunity to actively use what it is that I've learned and not just waiting for moments to come up and then trying to refresh that skill set after it has existed in a rather dormant state for however long it has been. um but that was interesting. Because and I know y'all can't see me. I will do maybe not specifically in this series. I know we're also working on the flagship podcast, so maybe for the flagship podcast I will concern myself with the video portion. But I'm just sitting here rocking my Scully, trying not to sound as sick as I still sound. But I'm also on LinkedIn looking at the jobs, and flashes of my time at these places is going across my mind. So you'll have to excuse me. Um, but I want to spend a quick second talking about this theory of reskilling or upskilling in order to find a better experience. And one of my other jobs that I have currently, I am kind of doing this with the participants in the program in two different tracks. A program that I created called RESS, but then also another program in partnership with the city of Detroit called Jumpstart. And this whole ideology, which it just screams apprenticeship to me. But this whole ideology of obviously if you know more, you can do more. But all of the man-made barriers that prevents one from knowing more of the thing people keep saying you should know more of in order to have a better experience in this life. Whether that's, you're in pursuit of more money, or you need a better housing situation, or, obviously more money or better line of funding brings about better partners. We'll get to that in a later episode too. I'd love to hear, and I'm gonna try to remember to make that question before the episode, so I could, definitely pivot off of some of your feedback. But those career pivots can bring about good things as well. Not that we've focused, on bad things, but it can definitely bring about good things, both personally and your interpersonal relationships with other people, especially if you feel a certain way about yourself, and having this access to, more funding with obviously a better salary or a better position that is more aligned with maybe your degree or your actual career or professional interests. So these are definitely great skills. Now, as I mentioned, if networking is a part of this, I do not have anything for you, because that is not where my strength lies. But, if you're down to go to a spot to fellowship over food and drink, and a natural, rather organic conversation about our professional pursuits comes up, and there is definitely an organic moment that happens in that, I'm all for it. I have had some, and I use some, but it's probably honestly like one or two experiences that were like that. But still, all right, just saying. If it's about networking, I can't help you out. But I know, looking back at my own, most of these, because I'm a very word of mouth job getter, I can hear about an opportunity and I will do the legwork in order to get it. I have not been much in the way of a person who applies via job boards, at least, in this last, I'll say 2 decades, to be honest, but I'll say decade and a half. I know specifically in my 30s, I told you, one job called me back, and like they were in communication with me even after I was let go, because the school was not in favor of my not being there. But my boss at the time, it was my coworker, was older than me, and obviously I was younger, and the last one hired. So the rationale that I was given was that, well, I mean, obviously you're going to land on your feet, you'll be fine. So, they were comforted in letting me go, because they thought I was young and I would land on my feet. Isn't that nice? That's pretty sweet, because you don't have to pay bills, because DTE knows you're a cat and you will land on your feet. So that's cool. Not bitter at all. Stay tuned. So, yes, one of the skills, I really enjoyed this conversation and your feedback, and I do apologize. I am unwell, and I know I don't have a fever or anything. This is all just how I sound, but it is wearing on me sounding like this, and even talking for periods of time. I'm not gonna say hurts, but it doesn't feel good. I thank you all for taking this wild ride with me as we talk about 30s, respective to career pivots in particular. I really want to thank the guests that we've had on the show today, Taylor, Jordan with a Y, and Alex. Thank you to the three of you for your contributions to today's episodes. I kind of just want to wrap this point up a little bit about reskilling and upskilling. Because I know, Alex, you mentioned about maintaining a balanced life, and burnout is one thing that I was definitely told to watch out for, and I don't know how one avoids burnout when you take on responsibility. I mean, if you don't have anything going, it's obviously not something that you're faced with, but because sometimes that responsibility doesn't always come with power. So you are not a decision maker in that instance. You are a producer of a thing, whether you are managing or supervising or actually on, the veritable line for this particular kind of work, but you might not have power. So whatever needs to be done, whatever is said, you kind of have to do that thing. But I think I was finding what a balanced life would look like, while working multiple jobs, going to school in pursuit of this ongoing education, which at the time was, I know it was on the way to what my eventual goal was, which is, this doctoral program that I'm in currently, and the outset of it. And I know you have to go through these steps in order to get there, or at least I assumed you had to go through these steps in order to get there. But it was still, at the time I think I was really trying to find some balance where I felt like I had put enough work hours in the day. I had done enough for my passion, whatever that was at the time. Excuse me, or at least did the work in order to figure out what it was and was not. So I could narrow down the list of things that it could be on the way to finding out what it actually is. Losing my mind. But yes, so the 30s really opened that door for me the more than I, allow myself to reflect. Like things were aligning already, but I was definitely doing even more work to line things up. So thank you, Alex. We'll be right back.
At Woodsy, we don't just write books. With the help of our publishing house, Hazelwood Press, we release blueprints. We print power. We publish purpose. From self-help to soul work, essays to exploration, we're celebrating new releases, timeless re-releases, and this October, our very first novel, Bedlam, drops. Stories that shift culture. Books that build legacy. Voices that deserve to be heard. Got a book in you? Want to tell your story your way? Let's make it real. Visit woodsy.llc to learn more about our publishing support, author services, and how to join our growing community of storytellers. Woodsy, rooted in truth, rising in power, writing the next chapter with you.
All right, y'all, welcome back. What an hour. Are we over an hour? I think we're over an hour. What an over an hour it has been. Thank y'all so much. Big thank you to Taylor, Jordan with a Y, and Alex for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. One thing I want to leave you with, remember, it's never too late to pursue a career that fulfills you with passion and purpose. If you're contemplating a pivot, professionally, take it from the guest today and hopefully something that I've shared. Make the pivot. I mean, you never know what's going to come at the end, at the outset of this, especially if it's in favor of moving from something that is not aligned with your passions towards something that is aligned with your passion. So it's never too late. Now, you got to be aware that if it requires that you go back to school or maybe do another program on the way, that is indeed all still part of the plan. So I don't want you to give up on yourself at any age, but definitely when that clock starts ticking, and for those of you who think, I want to get something done by or in my 30s or whatever the case is, that doesn't have to be the clock that you think it is. So before we get out of here, I do want to mention that I think you will be hearing this episode before the week that I will be hosting some events with Black Everywhere Detroit. If you do not follow me on other socials, Black Everywhere Detroit is a nonprofit organization. You can find out more information at blackeverywhere.org. That's blackeverywhere.org. And you can, find out more information about the larger organization. But I am a regional event director for the city of Detroit. And we have an event that is coming up here soon. So if you go to my website, which is woodsy.llc /events, you'll see on the event calendar we have a few things coming up, both in partnership with Black Everywhere. We have a couple of events that are our own. So yes, visit the website to check out the events. You can also visit the website to see some additional writings that I do outside of the books that I am currently working on. So I do a number of articles in the blog. I do film reviews in the blog, which some of those things you're going to start to see in the flagship podcast, which comes out this summer. More details on that as we get closer. But thank you all for taking this ride with me on Talk 30 to Me, and we will see you. Never, because this is a podcast, but we will hear you next week. All right, bye.